Moim gościem na konferencji KIKE, tegorocznej konferencji KIKE, jest Andrew Wanderhartem. Hello, sir. Good afternoon.
Hello.
Sir, first things I'm going to ask you about the many things connected with the telecommunication sectors, business aspects from the different point of views. But first, please say your first time here in Poland in Mikołajki?
It's my first time in Mikołajki, and it's very, very nice. Kiko invited me to join the conference, although it's in Polish. It's very nice to meet all the companies who are active.
But you, in your country, we have also very nice place. This is where you cannot not only work but relax.
Yeah.
So when you compare the Dutch and the Poland environment around us, you see more differences or similarities?
Well, if you look for the conferences, there is a lot of comparison, but there is a big difference. What I've seen for the Polish market, they always organize an event at a very nice venue. Okay. We also organize events in the Netherlands for the fiber industry, but often it's more in a conference place. So the activities after.
You think typical conference place?
Yes, okay. Typical conference place where people enter in the morning. We have the panel discussions and we have the network opportunity, but then everyone goes home because I think the difference is the Netherlands is a small country, so everyone can go home in the evening.
It's very good traveling between the different places in the Netherlands. But when we speaking about the telecommunication sector and small business there, so you see some similarities between the Poland, because in Poland during this conference they are speaking, they discuss very often about that we have the big telecom companies and very small companies. So we have the two words, and the KIKE starts to show the problem. So in Netherlands, it is the same, that there is also the local companies in this sector and big companies, or it is the different?
Yeah, no, it is the same. In the Netherlands, we have, if you compare it for the Netherlands on the access network, on the FTTH, we're nearly finished with building out the network. So that's the difference. What I see in Poland, and there's still not everyone is connected. If you look at the metro networks, it's a very dense area because there are a lot of data center in the Netherlands. So the metro networks are very active, and also on the international, connecting Amsterdam to Frankfurt, London, or even Warsaw. That's also a big part for the telecom, and it's really important to have that connection around Europe and also around the globe, so we can connect everyone to everyone. So that is what I've seen here for this event, a bit different, where I hear a lot of people talk still about how to build out a network, how to fit the best technology in for the end user, and if it's an end user, it's a customer or a consumer or a business. So that's a bit of a difference between Poland and the Netherlands.
In this conference, the main topic, I think, it is some strategy, but strategy, not the business strategy, but more the strategy for the government, who should support the small business in Poland. In Netherlands, there is some strategy which is exactly connected with the problems of small business. In your sector or general?
Well, and that is a difference for the Dutch government. I think because the telco industry is already a mature level, so that the government doesn't they support, but they don't intervene much. They do intervene with big mergers. When there is a merger between two companies, they will look if the merger would not make a monopolist in one sector to make it another incumbent, so to say. that is where they look at, but mainly now the big topics are sovereignty, cyber security, and the resilience to make the networks even stronger. So those are big topics from the Dutch government.
And it is also the topic on the challenge for the smallest companies?
That's also exactly the smallest companies. They face the same issues and the same regulations to oblige to, but often it has a different impact because they don't have a CISO directly, or they have external forces to make that happen, instead of the bigger companies that they have separate departments, especially for sovereignty or cyber security. So smaller companies, they face the same problems, and they still have to work with that.
So it is very similar with the companies which are in KIKE, must to operate now and adjust they not only the regulation but also the technology and the procedures, because we have the very fresh regulation in this area. And so it is the challenging not only from the legal point of view, but also, mostly from the technology aspect.
Exactly, and that's always the double challenge, because you have, on the one hand, you have legislation coming from Brussels going into national law, and then also there is some technical aspects to be done or to meet up with the legislation. So and that's why I'm really glad or proud that KIKE also joined our European Local Fiber Alliance, the umbrella association of the alternative operators who are present in Europe. So and we did not have any insights from the Polish market, what the problems were, and KIKE can provide that insight, so we can also inform the European politicians and the European Commission even better what is happening within each member state. Because
so you cooperate, your organization cooperate with KIKE direct, but also you have some cooperation and some ideas to cooperate on the Brussels level?
Exactly. On the Brussels level, it's really important, because that's for the first start. They start with
many cybers regulation for the smallest businesses, big and small companies, now starts in Brussels.
Exactly, and often, I think it's also a very big challenge Brussels have to make European legislation, and they have 27 different ideas, member states, the level of maturity on the market. So it's a really challenge for them to make one legislation, for example, on the Digital Network Act, to make that fit for everyone. And I think it's good now also KIKE joined Alpha. We also can inform Brussels even better with what's happening in Poland, because we also have representation in Romania, in Czech Republic, in Austria, in France, in the Nordics, Denmark, Sweden, Norway, UK, even UK we have aligned with us. And it's not
interesting. UK, not the European Union, but still your friend.
They're still, and exactly, a very important friend, because they face the same issues. They have also a lot of alternative operators, and they have to adapt the legislation, and they still look at Europe, how they do it, because they want to learn and do the same thing or even do it better. So if they make it better, then we, on the other hand, can learn back from them.
Sir, but I can imagine that on Brussels level, there is not only the smallest businesses, local businesses from Netherlands, Romania, Czech, Poland, but also the biggest companies, the biggest technological companies. And in this discussion, I don't want to use a fight, but in this discussion, it is you see that it is possible to show the perspective from the smallest company, because the people who watch us now can think the biggest companies, they can dictate everything.
Yeah, yeah, I hear what you say. That it is true. Of course, the biggest company have bigger budgets for lobby activities, and it's more convenient for politicians to talk to the bigger companies, because then on the same thing, what I mentioned, we cover a majority of Europe with alternative smaller operators. For them, it's just we talk to one vendor or a big incumbent. They know how the market works in that country, and of course they have a strategy behind it. But for now, I think if we look to Alpha, when I mentioned that we represent indirectly like 1,200 alternative operators, and they cover millions and millions on households. We did not count it directly, but it's up. I think for 50%, the household connections are covered by one of those 1,200 operators, and so it is a big voice, and they have to listen to also the smaller entrepreneurs, because they invested already a lot. They had an idea, they had a vision on a solution bringing to certain customers, and they invested in it. So they have to be heard that why they did invested, and not only on the big telco industries.
But what is the main issue, you think, in the future? Because we are after the big discussion about the cyber securities. We are still during some solution with the Ukraine, for example. So on the not only the local Poland, Dutch level, but international level, what is the most important? Is it still the cyber securities, or we should discuss about maybe something else?
Well, yes, I think the discussion on cybersecurity is a very relevant one, but I think it's also very important to keep the markets open, because we worked already for decades on a global market, and now suddenly, due to war, it is very good to think about sovereignty and what you can keep in your own place and protect it even better than you did before. That is a good thing to talk about, but I think we also have to keep our eyes open for other countries who have beneficial technologies. If you look for South America and Brazil, for example, they have a different way of living, and they have a different production on technology. So maybe that's also a good opportunity for Europe to work more with other nations. So I'm not saying we should not work only with the European companies, but I think it's a good thing to work with European countries. But there is a side effect. If we are only closing all the gates, we'll end up not innovating anymore and not having the possibility to use other technologies that are already advanced or out there. So that is a thing. A good thing is that due to the fact that everyone is talking about it, we are getting better in one Europe, where we were often divided on a lot of topics. We found a common issue, and that is cybersecurity and keeping up the internet, because we rely on it. We now know it's so important to have the internet up and running, because the whole society will fail and we'll have a market crash if we cannot do the payments.
It's not the local problem, domestic problem, because it's a global problem now.
It's a global problem, and it's good to have a look on that. So on the cybersecurity, the resilience and the sovereignty, they are important topics at the moment.
The end, the last question for you. Do you believe that in so demanding telecommunication sector is still the place for the small local companies?
Yes, I do believe that, and I think that's because most of the entrepreneurs they can
interact much quicker than bigger companies.
Because, as I mentioned, they innovate much quicker, so they can adapt, and they're often more agile to solutions. So I think there's still a big potential and important role for the smaller operators to stay in business.
Sir, thank you so much for this meeting with me. Andrew Wanderhartem był moim gościem, a ja do Państwa wracam z kolejnymi rozmowami już za chwilę stąd, z konferencji GIGA.